All right.
There he goes.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order and remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded. We do have a quorum, so any votes taken will be roll call votes, as this is a remote meeting. So we're going to do a roll call attendance right now. Bill Ambrosino here. Liana?
Ronnie Tenio, aye.
Liana?
Here.
Ann?
Here.
Brendan?
Here.
Fran?
Present.
Yeah, it looks like, so we got a quorum. Okay. So I guess the first thing we'll do is we'll address the minutes of the last meeting. All
Did we
right.
get the minutes?
I haven't seen those in my
Oh,
inbox.
do we not get the minutes? All right.
I don't think they're ready yet.
Okay. Then we'll pass on the minutes till the next meeting. And I'll turn it over to Gabe.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us, even though the weather outside is quite nice. So yeah, today I think we'd like to get some more discussion on Article 4. And we'll maybe after that we can talk a little bit about Article 5 and 6, but in short, I explained in the email, but there's not much to review in Article 5 and 6 because a lot of it is from the last few years. And most of it is about just needs to be in compliance with state law, it seems like. So I think we're in a pretty good spot with those, and we can move on to adding. Finally, we can talk about adding bylaws after this discussion. But I think today it would be really helpful for me, Jane, and Dylan to get some clarity on how exactly to move forward with site plan review. So right now, Bill and I were kind of talking about this before everyone logged on, but the Mendon site plan review is very extensive. And I think if it were not for trying to get something passed on town floor, we might be in a position to recommend really, trimming it down to make it a little more legible, a little more usable. Obviously that, we don't want to do too dramatic a change to this and have it be dead on arrival at town meeting. So I think it would be helpful for us to know. I mean, there's another question too that Dylan brought up that would also be helpful to get clarity on, and I think they might play into each other. But I guess the first question is, what do we want? What exactly does the committee want the threshold to be for when something is by right, something is administrative site plan review, and then something is standard site plan review? And then what exactly can we look to cut or trim down in each of those processes? And I think it would be difficult for us to move forward without getting like a consensus position from the committee on what that looks like. Dylan, do you have anything to say on this?
Yeah, just once you share the screen, it's especially in that first section that has a list of requirements why they're coming to site plan review, if it's any building or structure or anything with a special permit or variance. All of those we really need to decide. They're very particular and specific, and it's kind of odd how particular and specific they are. So if we could sort of decide on exactly what those look like, that would be great.
Yeah, so I will screen share.
They're basically very broad and very specific at the same time.
Yeah, so I'm going to zoom in a bunch. So, I mean, Dylan, do you want to talk through this first? Because you're really talking about B,
Yeah,
right?
B. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have things like any new building or structure, but if you read above that, it says unless it's used for accessory to a residential single family dwellings, what we had, but that means anything related to a two family, even a shed would have to come. but then you get as specific as any new business, commercial or industrial use or structure, any addition, alteration, expansion of existing business, blah, 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 like that last one there, in the residential district specifically. It's just, that one's so specific, whereas you also have any new building or structure as the first item. So it just gets, I don't know. I don't know
It's
what
like-
everyone else thinks about it. I just want to know what
Yeah.
the rest of the committee
mean-
thinks about all of these.
Even if we kept it the same, that last section is redundant with the first section
At least the
to a
any
degree.
new building
Yeah.
or structure, but I mean also there's uses here that need to come. I don't know. I just want to hear everyone else's opinions first. I think it's a very odd list, that's all.
Brendan,
I guess my question to that, posing a question to that question is, what is the current practice? Is this all being done as per current practice?
It's like any bylaw, Brendan, you know what, if people read and follow the regulation, it will come before us. But I'll be honest with you, 98% of what comes before us is business related as far as site plan review.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the residential really doesn't factor in. We don't see a lot there.
No, I'm just certain we never see site plan reviews for every variance that comes in. That has not
No.
happened.
Yeah.
I think we do it with a special permit, that's fine. But
No, sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, this is some of the stuff I was talking about. You look at other towns, and they're not requiring what we're requiring. It looks like we're kind of over regulated.
I agree with, excess of 500 square feet in any
Right.
district, maybe, but any new building or structure is so broad. A little shed, next to a restaurant or something, that's, and also if it's the people who read the bylaws, that means the people who are trying to do the right thing are the ones who have to do more work, whereas the people who aren't trying to do the right thing get away with it. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, I think someone,
Yeah.
and Liana's got her hand up, so why don't you let Liana weigh
Yeah.
in?
I was just going to ask a clarifying question, and I definitely would love to be more deferential to Bill and others who go through this process and kind of know what they want to see and when they want to see it for what uses or changes. But, when I'm reading B, it is a little confusing with the change where it says minor site plan review for permitted or by right uses and major site plan review for the following type. So if I'm reading that, minor site plan review would be for any permitted or by right. So like Dylan, when you're talking about a shed, I would think that that's a permitted or by right use, so wouldn't fall into the categories below. If I'm reading correctly, what the intent was here with the changes is that B was intended to say major site plan review is not required for everything. It's just for anything that's not permitted or by right that falls into one of these categories. And I don't disagree. Some of these categories are duplicative or seem unnecessary based on some, broader terms. But so I think that's my first question is the list really applicable to anything that's not permitted or by right and therefore considered major?
I mean, my question is, this is the process. Okay, a building permit comes into the town, goes to the building department. I think currently what's occurring is, the building inspector takes a look at it and determines that, for whatever reason, it meets the bylaw, and he just issues a building permit. Never goes before planning for a site plan review. At a residential, I should say. And let's talk residential. Almost everything that's commercial comes before planning. you know, I guess my question would be, when does planning get involved in residential uses and when do we start? When does planning board start mitigating, a 300 square foot building on someone's property? I mean, is that something we want? Like I said, that hasn't been Mendon's history in the past. I mean, regardless of what the regulations said. I mean, unfortunately, I think some of what got lost here along the way is our building department was never kicking these over to, was never kicking these over to planning. And I think probably if you would ask him, it's probably because it's not a requirement in any of the town he works for, and he works for several communities. It's, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. When I look at a bunch of other towns, the requirement on residential isn't as strict as we have it here.
Lonnie and then Carl.
So essentially, if it's that way in the other communities, I mean, when we built these bylaws, we looked at other communities. So did we just get strict because we wanted to be strict? I am all for reducing this as much as we can, especially on the residential side. At the same token, if we're just going to sit and say, geez, which ones are the townspeople going to be okay with? We're never going to know. We're just taking pop shots in the dark. So swing for the fence. Like, let's clean it up and use hey, the communities that are surrounding us are all doing this. And generally, when we bring it to the town floor, and that is the case, and we're able to show that there's other communities doing the same thing, that we will probably get the vote to go through. Especially when we're reducing something. I find that it's harder when we're trying to add, but it could be wrong. It could go both ways too. The other part of that is, crap, I lost my thought. Sorry.
Carl and then Brendan and then back to Dylan.
I'm not on the committee, so should I go after everyone else?
I mean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. 2 questions. First, changing the language
First,
from
for the record, could you please state your name and
okay.
your address?
Carl Hummel, 15 Misco Road. My first question is, when you're changing the language from residential family dwelling to residential single to residential 1 or 2 family, is that an attempt to abide by the new 80 accessory dwelling unit by right from the state? And my question is, do you want to take the word family out at all because it's not inclusive these days? My second question is more general. It looks like there's minor site review plans and major site review plans. Is it defined in the regulations what the differences between those two are and why someone wants to do a minor if at all possible?
I think that's what we're looking at now, to be honest with you, Carl.
Yes. But are there 2 procedures defined in the regulations that says, here's what you have to do for minor, here's what you have to do in addition for major, and it'll cost a lot more?
Yeah, that's our problem.
Okay, so I identified it.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, that's exactly the
That's
thing
exactly
we need to
what we're
figure out
working
today.
on. Yeah.
Brendan and then Dylan.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that a previous speaker, I think, was saying that we're much more strict against residential, but the way I read this is mostly absolving residential, because most of the time it's an accessory use to, the 1 or 2 family dwelling. So that's just the point I wanted to make, that I think this is mostly applicable to units that are currently commercial or some other use besides residential. And to Lonnie's point, I also think this needs to be like common sense, right? Like a new building or structure for a business should not require site plan review. However, if there's a pre-existing non-conforming business in residential area that
he's-
wants to increase, then
Yeah,
it
I'm on
makes sense.
another town. I'm on another towns right now, and they kind of simplify things a little bit. It says all site plans prepared by a registered architect, landscape architect, professional engineer, or a professional land surveyor, unless the requirement is waived by the planning board because of unusually simple circumstances. All site plans should be on standard 2436 sheets. Then it goes into, you know, about 5 or 6 things that, you know, location of boundaries, topography, location of structure, proposed landscaping. This one's almost too simple, but
Dylan?
I just wanted to summarize what I'm hearing is that no one is married to these very specific things here, and we're comfortable saying that maybe I can just go back and simplify this down to what I professionally think is a significant change to a commercial property, and maybe write those out instead of these. Make it very clear, very specific, like just not all these little nuances. And if I can just do that, if no one's married to these little
Yeah.
specific things, then
Okay.
yeah,
I can do that.
Yeah, I would put language in there like this one does regarding, you know, the planning board having a right to waive. You know, like I said, if someone's putting a small building on their property and, you know, it really doesn't, maybe they're putting up a horse barn or whatever. I mean, that's really covered under right to farm bylaw, but just, you know, putting up a building for whatever they want to park their tractor in it.
Yep.
They, you know, they shouldn't, I mean, a regular site plan, engineer plan is gonna have slopes and wetlands and, you know, we're gonna make someone, go through all that to put, you know, a 20 by 30, building on their property. I think that's a little extreme. So I think there has to be something in there that allows the planning board to label it a minor and not have the requirement of all that.
I think we have a little bit of that below where we can
This
some of
is
them start
actually
as minor
like I
and end up.
said, I actually have Hope Deals up, and this is pretty, projects require site plan approval, construction, non-residential agricultural structure use, commercial business, industrial business, any other use specified in the zoning bylaw which indicates site plan review approval is required. So they're not even going on in identifying residential.
Yeah, I'd prefer us to not even talk about residential and just like we don't even have to say except to the extent they're used for residential
might wanna-
anything. Just talk about commercial
Yeah.
for the most part. Unless we're talking
might wanna-
about changing a residential to a commercial use, but I don't think we need to do like these double negatives and things like that.
This one in Hopeville isn't bad, actually.
I'm very comfortable just switching this up. I didn't want to do it without hearing from you guys and knowing how married you are to any of these specific items.
Yeah, I think
I can go ahead and
yeah,
you know,
I think we just wanted to make sure we didn't want to put a significant amount of effort into cleaning this up and making it a lot more straightforward if people were going to be upset that we were.
Yeah, I didn't want to step on any toes before I did anything weird.
Yeah. Because and then have to go back and redo work.
Do you guys want me to share my screen here? So
if you have
the Hope Deal one, I mean,
if you have the link, I can. If you have the link, I can screen share.
It's just I just went to the Hope Deal.
Yeah, I have that one.
Bylaws and went to the site plan review, which is they don't.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing if you want to share. Lonnie and then Brendan.
I don't know how to share from here, actually.
Oh, okay.
Quick question.
I'll try to find it.
Just because barn was brought up, and I don't want to shift gears too much, but it's fresh in my brain. What's the reason we don't allow a barn on a piece of property as the only building or use?
I don't know.
I'm not
Another-
sure we don't.
No, we do. No, we definitely do not.
We don't.
Where is that? In the farm bylaw?
No, it's in the zoning bylaw somewhere. Listen, don't worry about it for now. I'll find it.
I'll look it up.
send
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll take a
we'll
look.
look it up.
No,
'Cause I-
not for tonight. Not for
I've
tonight.
never
Yeah,
had
yeah.
it
I'll
come.
look.
Yeah, I've never had it come before me, so. That's a good question.
That's a weird one.
We might have something in the bylaw, now that you mentioned, Lonnie, that just requires a residence, for an accessory building.
Yeah, Lonnie, you're welcome to reach out to me if you have a reference or anything or a specific
I'm
example that's
pretty
come
sure-
up.
I'm pretty
Just
sure that's
contact me. I'll take care of it. And we'll-
Referring to is that an accessory building without a residence. I don't think we allow that.
Okay, I'm gonna screen share the Hopedale site. I found the Hopedale site plan review section.
Yeah, this one's pretty clean and basic. Did I just kick myself off the meeting? What the hell?
No, you're good. One sec. Here we go. Okay, there we are. So yeah, we have
If you go to the, oh, you already got there. Okay. So they have
Yeah.
like this preliminary procedure. Yeah, there you go.
and then so an applicant, Brendan, do you want to chime in? Do you have something to say? Sorry.
I had something to say, before we started this. Maybe I could just say it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Dylan's previous comment about cleaning up that section, I think I'm okay with that. The only thing I don't want to lose is any protections for expanding non-conforming uses in residential zones. But I think that's triggered by the requirement for a variance. So
Yep.
as long as that's tight in there, I
Yes.
think it's
Yep.
okay.
No problem. I'll make sure. Yeah, that's
Cool.
very much variance. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
just so you're aware, Brendan, anything that's signified anywhere else in the bylaw, which pre-existing condition would be, they're still responsible to adhere to that. Whether defined here or not, but.
Yeah. So the Hopedale section, preliminary site plan review. Bill, what did you, was there something specific you liked in
No,
here?
I just overall, if you read this, it's much clearer and easier.
Mhm.
Is this a Hopedale? Maybe I wasn't on Hopedale.
This is what I'm getting for Hopedale.
No, that's not the one I am.
Oh,
This looks like it might be in a specific section because this section refers to residential development. So maybe this is a specific section.
oh. You might be right. One sec.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, section 18, I think, is what I'm looking for.
No, it
Here we
definitely
are.
wasn't on that.
Here we are. Section 18, site plan review. Uses requiring site plan review. Any new structure or group of structures under the same ownership on the same lot or contiguous lots with at least 6,000 square feet of gross floor area or requiring 10 or more parking spaces. Any improvement, alteration, or change in use which either
Yeah,
results
no,
in
it isn't the
This-
one I had, but
Oh, okay.
I'll have to try and let me see if I can get back to it quickly. I don't know what the hell I did with it. Shit.
But I think this is so I think we have a consensus that we're okay with kind of reworking the thresholds for, okay, good. Reworking, I see a thumbs up. Reworking the thresholds for site plan review in line with Dylan's approach, which, oh, I think it's official, right, Dylan? Is
Think
it?
so.
Oh, okay. If you
I
do?
don't know. I haven't gotten any sort of official
okay.
notice.
Well,
but,
Dylan
yeah.
Dylan is on track to be the main town planner, so very
Yeah,
exciting.
for those who weren't aware,
Nice.
Jack Hunter has retired.
All right.
So I think so that's good. We will move forward with that. I think the next thing we want to discuss is for the actual review application and review procedure. Here, I will screen share the original document. So as it currently stands,
Aha, it's Brimfield that I found.
Brimfield. Okay.
Brimfield.
We will we'll check it out, and I think we can look at that for our rewrite. So as it currently stands, the application approach for Mendon is very in-depth. Comparing to the West Brookfield site plan review approach, we're looking at, so I'm just going to compare just for, not to state the obvious, but so we have submission materials, for the minor site plan review, administrative site plan review, it's about twice as long, maybe 3 or 4 times as long as how West Brookfield writes it out. And in my opinion, what West Brookfield is requiring is not substantially different in, the places where it overlaps with Mendon's approach. It is not that different, but they say it in so many fewer words. And then if you look at major site plan review, it's all the same stuff as minor site plan review, plus about half a page of submission materials in total. And then for major site plan review, it is about, what was this, 4 or 5 pages of requirements. So I guess what would be helpful for us is knowing, and maybe we'll have to go through this step by step. I was hoping maybe if anyone has strong opinions, if you want to speak now, before we do that. I guess we want to get a sense of what people are and aren't married to in terms of both. I mean, one, I think it sounds like people would be on board with us just simplifying things in line with what's already existing, just to make it a little tighter in terms of how it's written out. But in terms of the actual requirements for the applications themselves, is there anything people are comfortable, want to see cut or don't want to see cut? Liana?
I'm definitely all in favor of simplifying this section, but 2 points/questions. Is it possible, that right now there's a waiver of technical requirements, right? So a lot of these submission requirements can be waived by the planning board. Is it possible, and I don't know legally if you can or can't do this, I would think you can, but to kind of reverse that, if you simplify to, instead do the inverse of that, which is that as the, planning board's reviewing, if they need additional materials, they can request it, right? Like, so
Yeah, we
the
do have that.
inverse. Yeah, perfect.
Mhm.
And then the second thing, as you were scrolling, and I don't know the answer to this, I saw like pretty extensive paragraphs on certain things we want to see on the site plan, like how the lighting is supposed to be. And I don't know if that was because that, lighting is not addressed elsewhere in the bylaw if we wanted to be addressed. So we kind of use the site plan as a way to say, okay, here's your light. So I would just be careful as you're cutting pieces in a streamlining effort that you're not cutting something that the planning board or the town wanted.
Yeah, no, we definitely we review the sign, which is in the current version. The planning board has to approve the sign before a permit's issued, and the lighting. Yeah, the lighting's an important piece. It has to be. It has to remain in there.
And there might be a better way to approach it or streamline. I just didn't want you to, because it looks like there's a lot to cut, but some of it may be actual regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not approaching this. I'm not trying to slash and burn. It would be helpful for us to know, like just to put it out there, like what do people see in the bylaws that they'd like to see eliminated potentially. If that's not the case, I mean, I agree. I think if we're like, maybe this isn't the moment to do this, but I think if we're addressing lighting in the site plan review section rather than a lighting bylaw within the document, I mean, we could migrate it to its own bylaw and say this only applies to these sorts of developments. Similarly with sign, like most towns have a separate sign bylaw. I think putting it in site plan review, if we're looking at streamlining, I guess if we're gonna look at streamlining what does and doesn't go for a site plan review, I think making the sign bylaw should be its own thing.
Don't we have a
because
separate sign bylaw? I thought we did.
We do have
Oh, I
a
guess-
separate sign
Yeah.
bylaw.
oh,
but
okay.
The
Not
planning
a
board
separate
gets,
lighting.
the planning board gets to approve the appearance of it.
Right. Okay. I thought you were talking about in the context of the site plan review.
No.
But looking
well,
at lighting,
in the-
lighting
in the-
lighting
in
is
the-
usually a separate bylaw, for
In the,
example.
in the context of the site plan review and the lighting, even if there would be a separate bylaw for the lighting, it's all reviewed under the site plan.
Yeah.
So like, no one should be issued a sign permit unless the planning board has approved the appearance of the sign.
Right.
And you'd think that's a small thing, but believe me, we've had the issue of people wanting to put up these ridiculous signs. And we've
Right.
had to stop them.
Right.
And it's and the lighting, because we're big on the down lighting.
Mhm.
So the planning board has to see that at site plan review. So
Yeah.
the lighting plan and we'll do a separate lighting bylaw, but the lighting plan needs to be available.
Yeah.
And usually what ends up happening is our engineer reviews it. So
Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, the way I'm seeing this, it seems like the submission materials and the performance requirements where we kind of lay out a lot of these really in-depth
Mhm.
requirements don't really exist in the other bylaw that was given as a sample. So I just want to
Yeah.
echo Leanna's comment that, if I think we want to keep a lot of these requirements because they've been added for a reason, because we've run into issues.
Right.
They should exist somewhere, even if they get moved.
Yeah. Okay. Dylan?
My issue here is that right now, what it looks like is that the administrative site plan review, which we want to call minor site plan review, is for basically every commercial use. Because it's everything that's by right in the bylaw that fits into that section B there. So basically any new building or structure that's going to be a commercial use would need to come for site plan review. I think that would be considered a minor one. Do we want minor site plan review to be as extensive in its the information that's required as a major one? I mean, right now I think the only difference we've made is that they have to do the same level of site plan with a engineered site plan, but they don't have to do like traffic studies. But some of these are like, I don't know, we had that woman with the dog training facility, right? And
Yeah.
we don't need an engineered plan from her, right?
No.
An existing building and it's just a use change. I think
Right.
the minor
I
site
think
plan
that's one
review.
thing that we should actually clarify is if it's a use change as opposed to an actual building.
Right. So I'd like to propose that minor site plan review is for things like use change and not like a huge building, being built.
Yeah, and if the impact isn't great, I mean,
Mhm.
stuff like you were talking about, the traffic impact analysis. There's been a few times, not often, but a few times where the board has waived the traffic study.
So
Because it just didn't make sense to do a traffic study.
would you all be comfortable if we cut down the requirements of the minor site plan review, but keep these very important submission requirements in the major one.
That's exactly what I was just gonna suggest.
Great.
We don't need all this stuff from minor site plan
We
review.
we also have an option here. The planning board has the right to say, no, this isn't minor. You need to apply for
Yeah.
a major. So we have that option to bump them up if we need to. But
Correct.
I would like to just cut this down. For a minor site plan review, that's just like a use change in an existing building. You know, it was a
Yeah.
dentist
Yeah.
and now it's a doctor's
Everybody-
office.
And the thing is, everybody needs to be aware of and I say this often, but it's relatively true because we don't want to cause angst for the town of Mendon either. And believe me, I've had it happen. Is the fact that the town has to act reasonable too. We can't demand stuff from people that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Because they'll just land us in court. And
Yeah.
it happened in the past. So, yeah, I asked for a traffic study one time and the applicant didn't feel it was, and he was all bent on ready to sue the town of Mendon. And I understand that they're like $10,000-$15,000 to do one.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Yeah. I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable with that because I know we
Yeah.
do want to keep a lot of this stuff, but I just really think it's major, not minor, maybe.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool. I think this has been very clarifying. This was something so we've been meeting every other week, just staff. And when we've been trying to do our rewrites, it's like we're trying to read your minds and figure out what do they want out of because this section it can get very complex. And we didn't want to, like I said, we didn't want to make, put in hours and hours of work reworking this. And then, so I think it sounds like the consensus is Dylan is going to look at the distinction between major and minor site plan review. And I think rework it so it is a little more common sense. And then on the same level for the distinction between major and minor site plan review, we're going to maintain most of the requirements for the major site plan review. And maybe we'll highlight things that don't make sense for your input. But by and large, I don't think anything in there doesn't. I think it all makes sense.
Yeah, for major.
For major, I think it all does make sense. There's nothing nonsensical. But we might reword things to clean it up and tighten it where needed. And then for minor site plan review, we're going to look at eliminating requirements that, again, if you're looking at a simple use change, switching from a dentist's office to a doctor's office, you shouldn't need to do an engineering study.
Site plan, yeah, exactly.
Even, and it's crazy. I think, like, I'm even looking at this West Brookfield one. And I mean, some of the stuff they were even looking for in here is like, this one looks like it's referring to a, just solar. Maybe I'm reading it by, maybe this isn't actually the full site plan review. Maybe that's specific to solar grids. I don't know. I'll do a little more. I'll do a little more looking around. Like I said, I think what we got, is good. We just clean it up.
Cool.
I'm not bother going to change everything, but
Awesome.
all right.
Well, I think that's it for tonight. We will for the next meeting, I think, come with a thorough based on your recommendations, come with like a thoroughly reworked.
Yeah, and work with Dylan on this and
Absolutely.
We were just see if we can get this you're gonna kind of nut it down.
Oh yeah. And then
Dylan and
like I said, Article 5 and 6. We can talk through it at the next meeting a little bit, but like I said, I don't think there's anything in there. We reviewed it last week. There wasn't really anything that needed any attention from what we could tell. And then we can move on to talking about like
Yeah.
writing new bylaws. Matthew and then Carl.
Sure. I got on a little late. If there's a recording from the last meeting, I wasn't there. I can get that converted over to the minutes as well with this meeting, if I can get that sooner than later, so that I can produce the minutes in advance.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's it for me.
Cool.
Dylan, if any of us have any questions or comments, we can email them to you. And
Please do.
Gabe?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, sounds good.
Yes,
sure.
just for that one person, not the group.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, so
exactly.
if anyone wants in the next, because we have 2 weeks until our next meeting, and I think in the before next Friday, we're going to try to get the reworked bylaw out next Friday. So you guys have time over the weekend to review it. If you want to, the document I sent on Friday, if anyone wants to send over more thorough comments on things they want to see changed, we'll be meeting next week. So maybe by the end of this week, it would be helpful to get any input. If you have more time to read through the document a little more closely. Carl?
Yeah, are you done? You move, is this considered new business before you do an adjournment, or are you going to do other things on your agenda? I didn't know whether you were finished.
Yeah, this is pretty much it, Tom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm now going to put on my hat as vice chair of the General Bylaws Review Committee. We discussed the signage bylaw because the select board has been receiving a number of citizen input from it. Brendan can speak about that, and it was discussed at last Wednesday's meeting. Brendan, do you want to summarize it? Would you like me to?
You sound like you're on a roll. You can do it.
Okay. There's been concerns from citizens about political signs. Last November's presidential election was heated and contentious. There are a number of people who had incredibly large signs that their neighbors considered obnoxious. There are people who have left their signs up long past what is allowable on page 15 of your sign bylaw. And so the select board asked the GBRC to say, should we make changes to, we talked about it and said, since it's in the zoning bylaw, it really should go into this committee for discussion, especially since then any enforcement action can be done by the zoning enforcement officer, whereas if it's a general bylaw, we have to have the police doing it. And my particular comment with reviewing the current Mendon sign bylaw is that for political signs, it is likely to be unable to stand up to a constitutional challenge on First Amendment grounds. Political speech is the most protected of all of any speech. Any restrictions has to be content neutral. You can probably in the town bylaw say that signs have to be physically secured so they don't blow away, but it is unlikely that you can restrict people to have only one sign. And my recommendation would be that you schedule a time to have a conversation with town council who can go and reference the 4 or 5 federal Supreme Court conversations on that. So we're dumping that on you, and you can work out with the select board how that fits in with your agenda.
Yeah, we'll take care of the sign bylaw. We did actually have a challenge to a political sign back, and it was relative to the size of the sign at the time. And at that time, council had said that it was protected political speech. But I will say this: the AG's office did approve our sign bylaw and made no reference to that. So we'll take a look at the sign bylaw when we get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, but Carl, you're completely spot on. I mean, when Jane and I, when we do sign bylaws, Jane always makes a point to look at any sort of content restrictions, because that is the most obvious,
Yeah, getting
I
past
think
the highest
especially
level of
political
scrutiny
signs,
is
but
extremely
Yeah.
difficult.
almost any other sign we can regulate.
I think the thing I'll say that might be an angle.
I think
and we
Liana
can-
did Liana have her hand up or no?
Not on this issue. When you're done, I had a question on the other bylaws, but yeah, you're going in the right direction on this issue.
Yeah. The one angle we might have is a time-based angle. So I have seen, and Jane, if you have anything to say, I feel like I've seen towns that have you can only have election signs up within a certain date of the election, and they have to be down within a few
Yeah,
weeks after the election. Um, I think that would be the angle I'd take.
I think that's already in the bylaw.
It
It
may, yeah,
is.
it may already be in
And the
there.
issue is whether if you are exceeding the time limits, then you are no longer a temporary sign, you are now permanent, and then you must go to a different level of scrutiny and review.
Yeah, unfortunately, um, zoning enforcement is in charge of that under the zoning bylaw. So you'd have to get with the building department and file a larger complaint.
Yeah.
In which case maybe it does move out of zoning and back into general bylaws, and then you get a police enforcement of the matter. So that's a question for
I
the
don't think the
select board to
police, I don't
consider.
think the police are gonna appreciate that, to be
No,
honest.
they wouldn't, but this is, again, the select board may want to provide guidance on this. And since this
I
has,
think political signs are such a small, I mean, bit of it. There's so much more of the sign bylaw that needs to be regulated by planning that I think it belongs, almost every other town has in their zoning bylaw. You know, and it, I don't think for worrying about political signs, it does it justice to move it to the general bylaw.
okay. And the other thing is that since the select board has received input and has interest in this, you may want to bump it up on your queue and review that sooner rather than later if you're
Yeah.
going through chronologically through by number. So that was my first point. My second point is the general bylaws are a complete mishmash between general bylaws and then special provisions, and then there are additional chapters after the special provisions. And we would be interested in reaching out to the CMRPC and seeing if their staff might be able to provide guidance, in which case I would want a contact name and email for me to reach out to and talk about what kind of support you might be able to provide, how much it would cost, and then we work on that kind of arrangement. So you'd be supporting our general committee in addition to the very detailed support you're providing for the zoning committee.
Yeah, I don't know, Jane, have we done a general bylaw? I think we have looked at it in zoning reviews before, but I don't know if usually just kind of if there's any overlap to check and but I don't know if we've had a project where we've worked directly with a general bylaw committee.
It may be just an advisory, like what's the
Yeah.
difference between a chapter and a special provision that has a section in it, and is there a way to differentiate between the two? If we could schedule
Yeah.
someone to come in and maybe have a dialogue with us at one of our upcoming meetings.
Mhm.
All right, let's see if we can move this along, but
Yep.
Jane is probably a good contact to get you in the right direction.
Mhm.
Okay, if you could put your email in the chat, then I can send you something.
Mhm. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate reaching
All
out.
right,
Yeah.
so Liana, you had a question?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, because I know you said you were gonna be looking at sections 5 and 6, and this is just kind of a little bit of a side comment on the solar photovoltaics facilities bylaw. I know there have been a lot of changes in the solar field in terms of laws. I don't know
Yeah,
if our bylaw is up to date on that, but I could tell you, I know like one thing, for residential, we have it at 10 kW, and I know the net metering laws changed, so now it's 25, the threshold is 25 kW. So you might want to kind of, again, I have no opinion personally on it, but you might want to look at stuff like that to align, on some of that stuff.
yeah, the photovoltaic definitely needs to be,
Yeah, that's probably one of the very few that needs any looking at, but yeah, definitely.
updated.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, Gabe, did you want to go through those really briefly? Just share screen maybe and just show
Yeah,
the names of everything there.
let me pull it
I think
up.
solar is just one of, some of them we
Mhm.
just put in maybe a year ago. So
Yeah, give me a sec.
You guys didn't tell me my hair was a wreck tonight.
Kate's got it. I got it.
You guys are being too nice.
Me too, Bill.
You always look good, Bill. You just need a pair of sunglasses like Lonnie. That's it. And then you
That's
know.
it.
So
Or you
here's
can
what
just shave it off, Bill.
That's
so just
coming, Brendan,
quickly,
that's coming.
just quickly, we have in section 5 is overlay districts, or article 5 is overlay districts. We have the adult entertainment overlay district, the now deleted affordable housing overlay district, the flood hazard overlay district, and then the large scale ground mounted solar photovoltaic facilities overlay district, which is now deleted. And then in Article 6, we have special provisions. We have a special provision for motor vehicle service stations, a special provision for solar photovoltaic facilities, and then the marijuana overlay or marijuana special provisions. So, Dylan, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so I just want to speak to flood hazard overlay district if I can. That one is coming to town meeting this year in interest of time. FEMA changed its regulations this last year, and we need to make these changes immediately. So we didn't bring that to this board specifically. I can send you the changes this week. They are completely like direct legal changes. There's no room for us making decisions on what we want it to look like. It is just FEMA regulations so that Mendon can still be a community part of the National Flood Insurance Program. If we don't make those changes, then Mendon residents lose their flood insurance if they're using a federally backed flood insurance program.
Does that still require a planning board public hearing?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just make sure we're following the steps.
Yep. So I worked with DCR the whole way through to make sure that everything that we're putting into this bylaw is what FEMA wants. So it's just perfectly like it's just the legal requirements. It's so I'll send it to everyone so you can look at it. But I just didn't want to bring it to this committee because there's no choices in the matter.
Yeah, I just don't know. You know, the AG's office has a set of processes, and
right. That's why I worked with DCR. Yep.
Yeah, if you don't follow them, they don't.
Yeah, that's why DCR is the one who actually told me exactly step by step what needs to be put in. Yep.
Yeah, they do, but are they requiring a public hearing? I know it'd be a cursory public hearing, but
I can send you DCR's requirements. They're the Massachusetts
I know
steward of FEMA's NFIP. Yeah.
So does anyone want to look at any specific subsections of these articles tonight, or are we?
No.
Okay. So yeah, just as you can see, it's a lot of like Dylan was saying about the flood hazard. A lot of it's pretty boilerplate stuff. Yeah.
I'd like to start knocking off some of these big ones we got here, like this site plan review, and then get them back to take care of the non-conforming stuff. You know, let's start knocking some of these off so we can get them behind us and we can move this along.
Absolutely.
So, I just kind of get the feeling that these are dragging on, and I want to get them done because we're dealing with a time frame, and that window shrinking.
Absolutely. So yeah, we will get you the reworked version of this by next Friday. Like I said, we'll be meeting sometime next week. So if you have any specific comments on the document or want to email us any specific comments on site plan review, I think by the end of the week or like next Monday would be ideal so we can, if you want us to talk about it when Jane, Dylan, and I meet next week, that would be helpful. But I think that's it for tonight.
Did I dream this, or did you say you filed for an extension? Okay. All right. I just want to make sure you didn't dream it.
Yeah.
I asked Jeremy to request the extension from the state. And once he receives that, then CMRPC has to amend the contract with the town just for the time frame.
Right. Beautiful. All right. As long as I know it's being handled. All right, other than that, I just need a motion.
Do we need a date?
I don't even
for the-
think we need a motion, but we need to adjourn.
Motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
we need to set the next meeting date.
Oh, yes. So we'll be doing, unless there's any objections, April 15th.
Anybody, any problems, any issues? All right, next meeting will be April 15th, 6 PM.
Sounds
All
great.
right.
And,
All
and
right,
thank you for sending the materials in advance. That is helpful.
yeah, it's extremely helpful, yeah. All right, then, everybody, we'll convene again in 2 weeks, and you guys all have a great time till then.
You want to do a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, real quick.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Clark,
Leanna Moore,
aye.
aye.
Bill
Thank
Ambrosino, aye.
May's all right.
Lonnie, Tenio, aye.
Chanel, I.
Moore, aye.
And I think that's everybody.
Mhm.
So we're officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good
Good
evening.
night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.